FPL 2024-25 has finally launched, which means we can start selecting our teams for the new season. Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan, and today I'm going to be showing you my first draft team for this new year. We are so back. Okay guys, new graphics for the new season and we are so ready to go. This team that I'm going to show you today costs 100 million, although saving 0.5 million in the bank might not be such a bad idea. Now this is also a Haaland draft. We might do some no Haaland drafts in the future. Let me know if you would like to see that, and make sure you do subscribe with those notifications on if you would like to see some different variations of team drafts with different combinations of players. And also we're going to be going for a 3-4-3 formation today, because I think defenders last season weren't really worth it, and I think there's a lot of great attacking options to go for that we are going to show you today. Also, one final thing before we look at the first player on this team sheet: new league code, link in the description, get involved. But I want to show you the first player on this team sheet, who is going to be Jordan Pickford in goal. Yes, indeed, the top scoring goalkeeper in FPL last season. Very, very solid under defensive coach Sean Dyche for Everton, who actually kept the second most clean sheets in the league last year. That was joint with Man City. So if you want to save a little bit of money and get a Man City level goalkeeper, then maybe Pickford could be the way. Now, Everton have got really nice fixtures all the way until around game week 15. The way Everton's fixtures have been laid out is that they play all of the most difficult attacks sort of from game week 15 onwards. So we've got a really nice long-term goalkeeper to have in your team all the way up until your first wild card. Also, Pickford, same price as Branthwaite and Tarkowski, so there's no real way to save on the Everton defence unless you go for Mykolenko at 4.5. And really, what I'm waiting here for is for more information on the 4.5 million goalkeepers in pre-season. I can definitely see myself switching from Pickford to a different goalkeeper if we find out who is going to start for Chelsea out of Sanchez and Petrovic. Both 4.5, we're not sure who's going to start. Same with Crystal Palace, Henderson versus Johnston. We don't know who is going to be starting, but again, both of them are 4.5. So for now, Pickford is the reliable man whilst we wait for a nice 4.5 million option to emerge. In defence, guys, we have got Saliba. 18 clean sheets for Arsenal last season. They were by far the best defence in the league. So I think it's a really good idea to go for at least one Arsenal defender. It could be Gabriel as well. White is probably a little bit expensive at 6.5 million. Urian Timber, risky minutes at 5.5 as well. But Saliba versus Gabriel, I think, is going to be the debate for a lot of people. Both defenders costing 6 million. Now, Saliba is typically better for bonus points. If Arsenal keep a clean sheet, Saliba's got a good chance of those bonus. However, Gabriel is better for goal threat. Last season, Gabriel was a little bit cheaper than Saliba, so a lot of us lent towards Gabriel. But this year, given that they are the same price, I think Saliba edges it just about for me. Ezri Konsa is my next defender on the list. He's a 4.5 million defender who kept 8 clean sheets last year, at least Aston Villa did. And I think actually, even though Aston Villa were a fairly average defence last year, they have great opening fixtures this year. So they've got West Ham and then Arsenal, but after that, Leicester, Everton, Wolves and Ipswich. So really nice run of fixtures where we could see some clean sheets. Konsa's also very reliable for minutes. And with Aston Villa, given that they're going to be in the Champions League this year, we might see a little bit of rotation among some of the Aston Villa players. Konsa, however, should be nailed on. And let's complete the defence with Anderson. Yes, the Crystal Palace 4.5 million defender. Palace, 4th best defence last season. 10 clean sheets for them. So actually, we're looking at a Palace team that really was one of the better defences in the league. And I know a lot of people will maybe go for Mark Gahey instead, but Anderson has shown consistently that not only is he a better attacking threat and a target man from those set pieces, big man in the centre-back position, but also he does a little bit better for bonus points as well, which is quite nice. 2 goals and 3 assists for Anderson last season, which was pretty nice. And Palace in particular, second half of the season under Glasner, really, really impressive stuff. And I think they'll have a good year this year. So Crystal Palace defenders definitely on my wish list. We could also go for the likes of Mitchell and Munoz, but they're both 0.5 million more expensive. So if you want to cut corners a little bit here, Anderson 4.5, like the look of him. You could also go for Dan Burn here if you fancy a Newcastle defender, but Dan Burn maybe slightly rotation risk with many options at the left back and left centre back position for Newcastle at the moment. But what I want to say before we go any further, because we might have noticed at this point that Konsa and Anderson great 4.5 million options, but Konsa plays Arsenal in Game Week 2, and Anderson plays away against Chelsea in Game Week 3. So I need another defender who can cover these 4.5 million men on my bench for those specific game weeks, and we can rotate them in a little bit. You'll find out more about that defender who rotates perfectly with these two a little bit later on in the video. Let's move on into the midfield position. And how could I not pick Saka? 16 goals and 12 assists last season, a really strong and improving season for him. He is consistent every year. He seems to be doing really well, but also is improving year on year. So I really like Saka as a reliable player to go for. He's also on penalties, and there's been some slight tweaks in the rules for bonus points this season, and we'll actually see players get more bonus points if they are fouled often. So interestingly, Saka is a player who gets fouled a lot, so he could be even more of a bonus points magnet. And given that he's a star player for a title contending team, he's definitely a player very high on my wish list. Phil Foden is next. He's a little bit cheaper at 9.5, and I think that's a really nice price tag for him. 19 goals and 8 assists last season for Man City, and that came because he is mostly nailed on now. He is playing very, very regularly. He's pretty much one of the first names on the Man City team sheet, which we didn't really have before. Now Foden is playing pretty much every game. He's going to be a super crucial player once again for Man City as they go for yet another title in the Premier League. Bonus points also should be good for Foden. He is a player that gets fouled, but we're also seeing more bonus points for players who take a lot of shots on target. And Foden is definitely that man. He could be an absolute bonus points machine this year. He really, really could. And that's going to be a bit of a theme for the rest of the midfielders. But certainly looking at the restructure of the bonus point system, Saka and Foden look like two players that can really benefit from that. And as such, they were two of the first names on my team sheet. So here's a question for you guys. Who was the first name on your team sheet? When you first created your FPL team, who was the first player you put in? Let me know in the comments. For me, it was Saka. Maybe you've got a slightly different answer there. And whilst you're down there, why not leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content as well? Hopefully you're going to love the preseason content we've got coming up for you. I think you're going to like it. Gordon is the next player in the midfield position. 11 goals, 16 assists last season. So another midfielder with a really, really high prolific rate of getting fantasy returns, which is exactly what we're looking for in our fantasy team. He's also nailed on now and improving year on year. He's also got some great opening fixtures. Really like the look of this Southampton fixture for Newcastle. And after that, Bournemouth, Spurs, Wolves, all teams that are capable of conceding goals. And we're going to finish off this midfield with Eberechi Eze, who is a little bit different, a little bit out there, but I like him. 11 goals and 5 assists for him, so it's slightly less prolific than some of our other midfield choices, but he is now nailed on for penalties. Previously, the penalties were kind of shared between Eze and Elise a little bit there, but now Elise has left Crystal Palace. Eze is going to be on penalties, all set pieces, all corners, all free kicks, and is going to be the standout talisman for Crystal Palace. Of course, he is going to get more bonus points this year due to shots on target, getting fouled as well. And given that he is the talisman in his team and everything goes through him, if Crystal Palace score, well, Eze is probably involved. And if Eze is involved, he's also likely to get bonus points. So I think we could see some really nice scores from Eze during the beginning of this season. Fixture's pretty good as well. We've got that Leicester at home game in Game Week 4, which could be pretty nice. But if you are unkeen on Eze or foresee yourself transferring him out in the future, there's actually some other players around his price that look pretty good. I'm looking at Mbermo, Nkunku, Kudus, Gross, Rodri, Rice, Garnacho, Bailey, Gibbs-White, Martinelli if he can regain some form. There's loads of options at around 6.5 to 7 million. So if Gordon or Eze don't quite go to plan, there's plenty of options for you to pivot to. And that's going to be really important as you navigate your FPL season. Well, here's the main man, Erling Haaland, back on the team sheet for another season. And I know a lot of people will think he's a little too expensive at 15 million this year, and I totally understand that. He's not going to be for everyone, but in my first draft, he makes the cut. Like I said, we will be doing more videos having a look at what your team might look like without Erling Haaland. I think there's definitely options to go without him as well, and see how you can improve your team with the money freed up by losing him from your team. But what I like about him is that he is a great captain option and reliable captain option every single game week, particularly in game week 2, where Manchester City face Ipswich Town at home. That is a really, really nice fixture, and I would be very frightened to go into game week 2 without Haaland as my captain. So be aware of that one, anyone looking to go without him. But there are some other advantages for going for him this season. He's fully rested over the summer with no Norway in international competition. He's back in full fitness after struggling with some injury issues around the mid-season last year, and he's hopefully going to start the season alongside De Bruyne, which obviously didn't quite work out at the beginning of last season. And we know that Haaland and De Bruyne link up can be really, really deadly. So maybe he's going to benefit from that as well. Like I said, Haaland is not a must-have, and he's not going to be for everyone, but he makes my first draft alongside Alexander Isak, another player who I really, really want to have for game week 1. Love the look of these Newcastle fixtures with Southampton at home at the opening fixture. And now we know that Isak is probably the starting striker ahead of Wilson. We saw that particularly last season. Isak is just that guy. He is him, an absolutely brilliant football player. And with no European football for Newcastle this year, that could be a really advantageous for Isak. He's also on penalties, which is useful. Yet another penalty taker in my team. And 21 goals and 4 assists last season was phenomenal, considering he wasn't actually able to start every game due to rotation and injury slightly earlier on in the season. And that 21 goals and 4 assists is consistent with his underlying numbers as well, which tells me that those returns are sustainable. We like that a lot. And actually, if you look at Isak versus Watkins, for example, we saw Isak had actually more points per game than Ollie Watkins, if you account for the minutes and the starts that these players had. So Isak, Watkins, both phenomenal options, but Isak is just about edging it for me at this present moment. And we've got to fill this team up with one more player in the starting 11, and that's going to be João Pedro. Now, of course, if you're going for Haaland, you are going to have to cut some corners somewhere. You can't have everyone if you also have Haaland. That's the way things are this year. You're going to have to deal with that fact. It's tough, I know. But João Pedro is really, really nice value for money at 5.5 million. That is so cheap for what he offers. Of course, 9 goals and 3 assists last season was okay. It wasn't amazing, but it's okay. But what we like is that Pedro was nailed at the end of the season. So we saw him playing every single game. He is going to be the main starting striker. He is going to be far less rotation risk. He was a little rotation risk last season. But now we've got a new manager, Hertzler, at Brighton. There's going to be no European football for Brighton, and also he's on penalties as well. Quite good at them as well. So João Pedro, I think, could be the bargain of the year and a great way of enabling you to have a fairly strong squad and include Haaland at the same time. Of course, we would like to have the likes of Watkins and Havertz in this slot, but you can't have them all. That's part of the game. That is FPL. You're working within a budget. You're trying to make the most of it. That's what makes it so fun. But I'm sure there's definitely other options to go around. Now, with the starting 11 done, it's time we have a look at the bench. Turner is my 4 million goalkeeper. Now, a lot of people like to go with 2 starting goalkeepers that they can rotate each game week. But for me, not really too keen on that idea. And I think it usually works out better if you just stick with 1 goalkeeper. That's exactly what I've found in the past anyway. So, no rotating goalkeepers for me. So I was just looking for a 4 million goalkeeper. And out of all the 4 million goalkeepers, the one that I found that kind of looked most likely to get at least some minutes in the starting 11 for their team is Turner. If I'm totally honest though, there is no starting goalkeepers this year for 4 million. There's just none available. We'll keep our eye out for one, and I'll be sure to let you know if we find anyone. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll maybe find one in the future. But for now, Turner is in my bench goalkeeper, and I'm just going to play Pickford or whoever is my starting goalkeeper every single week. For my rotation defender, it is Robinson, a 4.5 million Fulham defender who works really well in the combination with Konsa and Anderson. Like I said, I don't want to play Konsa in game week 2 against Arsenal, and I don't want to play Anderson in game week 3 against Chelsea. So I need a defender who looks good for game week 2 and 3. And guess who our answer is? It's Robinson. So Robinson plays Leicester in game week 2 and Ipswich in game week 3. So 2 newly promoted teams. Fulham, 10 clean sheets last season. That was the joint 4th best defence in the league. He also got 6 assists last season. Very nice indeed. And we know at this point that Robinson is nailed on in that left back position for Fulham. So really like the look of this slightly differential kind of cheat code maybe player to get in there to help cover our other 4.5 million defenders there. We've also got Harwood Bellis as a 4 million defender here on the bench. Just a nice cheap enabler who will only ever play in emergencies for me. He is once again nailed for Southampton. 2 goals and 4 assists last season in the Championship. That's not too bad, and Southampton actually have pretty decent fixtures, so you never know, he could come in handy occasionally. But again, we're going to try and avoid playing Harwood Bellis, and even more so, Harry Winks. We're hopefully never going to have to play Harry Winks, but again, he is a nailed-on, cheap 4.5 million midfielder, the cheapest a midfielder can be in the game of FPL. And although he doesn't have too much attacking threat, he did score 2 goals last season. We will once again try and find a better 4.5 million midfielder in the future, but right now, can't find anyone who looks nailed on for minutes and possesses any kind of attacking threat. Maybe one will emerge. If one does, we'll be sure to let you know. So, that is the team. Few more things to talk about. First of all, captains. Erling Haaland against Chelsea, I think, is going to be my captain choice. That's where my instinct is going at the moment. Chelsea is going to be a high-scoring game under their new management. Could be interesting, and we know that Man City score goals. We know Haaland is very, very reliable indeed. So, a great captain option every week, including the game against Chelsea. Vice-captain right now is on Isak. Also like the look of him. If you've got an Isak in your team and you don't have Haaland, that is probably where I'd be looking to place the captain's armband. A few other notes. No Salah in this team, as we mentioned. It's difficult to fit both Salah and Haaland in. We will try and make a video on a team with both of these players in, but it is much more difficult to make a balanced team. In general, we have no Liverpool players, and I know a few people will be commenting on that immediately, but I want to learn a little bit more about Liverpool before I go in on their players, particularly who is going to be starting alongside Salah. Jota, Diaz, Darwin, Gakpo, any of these could be taking up the other attacking positions in the Liverpool team. I'm not convinced by Liverpool in general because they will be coming in fresh with a brand new manager after a long time of Jurgen Klopp. So there is a little bit of risk there, and I think most of the players are wait and see, other than Salah, who is obviously an amazing choice that I unfortunately just couldn't fit in. As for Liverpool defenders, you know, a little too expensive for me. It didn't really prove themselves defensively last season, and the attacking returns were down a little bit for the likes of Trent and Van Dijk as well. So they are options, but I'm not massively keen on them at this early stage in the season. So maybe we'll add some Liverpool players as we learn more about them over the next few months in pre-season, but for now, there are no players. And Chelsea as well, no players. Another team with a new manager. Bad opening fixture against Man City. Palmer is too expensive if you want Haaland. And Nkunku is a nice option, but he didn't quite make the cut. And I think I would like to get a Chelsea goalkeeper if it's all possible. But there is so much more to learn, guys. So there is my team. Let me know what you think about it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like, subscribe for more content. Plenty more to come. And yeah, guys, I'm so excited to get stuck back in. FPL is back. I'm absolutely amazed by this, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.